Liar, liar. Liar, liar. Written by Meredith Costain. Illustrated by Pennell Gamble. Characters. Freddie is very proud of his parents. Courtney loves being at school with her friends. Paul enjoys hanging out with his friends in the playground. Chapter 1. A new student. Freddie followed his new teacher into the classroom. 26 pairs of eyes stared at him. "I'd like everyone to meet our new student," Mrs. Garvey said. "Tell us all about yourself, Freddie." "Well, my name's Freddie Piggott," Freddie began. A boy in the back row made a snorting noise. Freddie ignored him. "And I've moved to Highton to live with my grandmother," he went on. "Thank you, Freddie," said Mrs. Garvey. "Does anyone have any questions?" Jacob's hand shot up. "How come you're living with your grandmother?" he asked. "Maybe he ran away from home," whispered Andy. "Maybe his parents ran away from him," Paul whispered back. Mrs. Garvey frowned at them. "That's enough, boys," she said. "I used to travel around with my parents," explained Freddie. "But now they want me to stay in the one place so I can go to school." Courtney put up her hand. "What do they do?" she asked. "My dad's an explorer," Freddie said proudly. "He's explored all over the world. Africa, Egypt, South America." Mrs. Garvey's eyes shone. "How interesting," she said. "Has he been to any jungles?" Freddie nodded. "Especially jungles filled with leeches and wild animals. Once Dad even swam across a river that was full of man-eating piranhas." Some of the class started to giggle. The rope bridge broke, Freddie went on, and Dad was flung into the raging water far below. He had to swim across to rescue my mother from a panther. Chapter 2. The Tall-Tale Kid. When the bell rang for recess, Mrs. Garvey's class ran outside to play. Paul, Jacob, and Andy hung around under the oak tree, waiting for Freddie to walk past. "Here comes Jungle Boy," said Paul. "Can you swing from branch to branch, like Tarzan?" asked Jacob. "No," said Freddie. "My arms aren't strong enough yet." "But my dad can." "Right," said Paul, grinning at his friends. "And I bet he can wrestle tigers and stuff too, can't he?" "Sure can," said Freddie. Once he wrestled 3 tigers, one after the other. They were attacking a village. Jacob rolled his eyes. "Did he stick his head down their throats?" he asked. "Like the lion tamers at the circus?" "Not the tigers," said Freddie. "But he put his head inside an alligator's throat once. He held his arms out wide. It had huge jaws, as big as this. And then he killed it," said Paul. "With his bare hands." Freddie stared at him. "How did you know that?" The other boys groaned. "It swallowed my mother's pet vampire bat," Freddie went on. "Dad had to kill it to get the bat out again. That's why he put his head inside its throat. To see if Dracky was down there." "Of course he died," joked Andy. "Right after he killed an elephant." Freddie looked shocked. My dad would never ever hurt an elephant, he said. Although once he was nearly trampled by one. See, there was this elephant that had a thorn stuck in its foot, and it got really angry. It charged the tent my parents were sleeping in. Where were you? Asked Paul. I thought you said that you lived with your parents. I was sleeping up a tree that night, explained Freddie. On account of the killer mongoose. The killer what? Asked Jacob. It's this long thing like a rat, explained Freddie. They've got really sharp teeth. And they kill snakes. So, said Andy. Silver, my pet python, was sick. Did I mention that my mother is a snake charmer? Anyway, I was trying to keep Silver away from the killer mongoose. So we both. Enough, yelled Andy. You're just making all of this up, cried Jacob. Liar, shouted Paul. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Chapter 3. The Shrunken Heads. After recess, Mrs. Garvey asked Freddie to talk to the class about his adventures. Freddie told them about the time that his mother helped to save a whole village from an erupting volcano, and how his father had discovered a cure for a rare disease in a special plant. This plant could only be found at the bottom of a hidden valley, and how a witch doctor had then presented his parents with a whole family of shrunken heads. At lunchtime, Courtney and her friends rushed up to Freddie. Have you really got a family of shrunken heads? Courtney asked him. Sure, said Freddie. They're at Grandma's place. Liar, said Courtney. Liar, said her friend Alicia. Liar, liar, pants on fire, sang their friend Hannah. It's true, said Freddie. Where does she keep them then? Smirked Courtney. In the attic? With all the skeletons? No, said Freddie. They're in the cellar. She keeps the heads in her front room. In the cupboard with all the good dishes. Well, we all want to see them, said Courtney. Sure, said Freddie. Any time. Today then, said Courtney. We'll go after school. I can't today, said Freddie. He tapped his front tooth. I have to go to the dentist. We'll come anyway, said Courtney. Your grandma will let us in. She's coming too, said Freddie. We'll come later then, said Alicia. Just before dinner. We're going out for dinner tonight, said Freddie. We won't be back until really late. You haven't really got a family of shrunken heads at your grandma's, have you, Freddie? Asked Courtney. And your father isn't really an explorer, said Alicia. You're just making it all up, Freddie, said Hannah. Liar, said Courtney. Liar, said Alicia. Liar, liar, pants on fire, the girls